Welcome to Spotlight on Poverty and Opportunity. I'm Jodie Levin-Epstein, joined here today by Ron Haskins of the Brookings Institution. We're going to focus today on Measure for America. First question up, Ron. You've done considerable amount of writing and research on low-income poverty issues from an array of perspectives. Can you imagine yourself, take any topic in the poverty arena and applying the Human Impact Index to it?
Yes. Good. If you wrote a book, for example, you would want to survey the field, and you would want broad measures, and including indexes, which, after all, pull together lots and lots of individual, detailed data that bores most people to death, and puts it in one index. And Americans like that. Americans want to know what the unemployment rate is. They want to know what the poverty rate is. They want to know what the GDP is. And so you have an index here that is, they call it Human Development Index, and I think it's far superior to the other indexes I mentioned because it gives you a broader picture all in one measure of more than just one thing. It's like GDP in that respect. GDP measures the total economic output of the country and puts it all together in one measure, and this does the same thing for human development. But it's the other thing is that you can look at the other measures, that the component measures that they give at the same time that they publish the one, human development number. So those are very useful to a researcher as well, so we can go into detail about what the individual measures show. And then not only that, but they go further into detail about what those individual measures look like for men and women in the South and the North, by different demographic groups, different ethnic groups. So you get both. You get a big measure that tells you a lot in one measure, and it's easy to think about and easy, perhaps impressive to the public about here is the index of human development in the United States. But you also get lots of more refined measures, which are crucial for guys like me who want to analyze things and write a book about it.
Well, Ron, you're a man of many hats. One other hat you have had is on the Hill. You worked on the Hill. You had a seminal role, for example, with welfare reform. Put your old Hill hat on, if you would, for a moment, and tell me how you think the Measure of America Human Development Index might or might not resonate in Congress.
Okay, here's the first thing to know about the use of data in Washington. I didn't realize this until I came here, because I came from a university background, and numbers are more or less sacrosanct. You got to go with the numbers, and you could criticize the numbers. They could have flaws and so forth, and here's another number that's much better for this and this reason. But in Washington, that's not the way it is. You decide a good number is a number that agrees with your position. A bad number is one that disagrees with your position. So the idea that you're going to be able to use data to persuade politicians that they should vote for a certain thing it's not impossible, but it's very difficult. The political system tends to sweep up numbers and use them to advance the cause that they already knew was the right answer. And I always think of it this way. In the research world, when you do a literature review, ideally you start out, okay, I'm going to have an open mind. I'm going to look at the numbers. I'm going to look at all the studies. I'm going to put them right next to each other, and I'm going to draw the fairest interpretation based on all these numbers. But in the political world, when you start the review, you can put all the evidence in two piles. The pile that agrees with my position, the pile that disagrees with my position. And the point of review is to elevate the ones that agree and trash the ones that don't agree. Now that's a little, that might be worse than it actually is, but that is the tendency. So it's very different.
So Ron, the Human Development Index is a composite picture of what's going on with well-being. You've been very involved in the review of official poverty measures and the development and consideration of what's in play right now, a supplemental poverty measure. Is income poverty passé?
No, not at all. The poverty measure, for all its flaws, and you and I both know it has a lot of them, nonetheless is a fairly consistent index over time. And if you and your colleagues didn't like the poverty number, why do you pay such close attention to it? And why do you beat Republicans over the head with it all the time? Poverty is way too high, and it's much higher among children and so forth. So it does serve a very good purpose. I think it does give a rough picture of something like misery in the United States. And we have too much of it. It's going up, it's going down, it's higher among blacks, it's fallen nicely among the elderly, that sort of thing. Those are very useful comparisons. So I don't think poverty is passé. But I do think that numbers that are broader and incorporate more, especially human development measures, like this measure does, health, education, and income, all these things are useful. We need something beyond the poverty measure, and we need a better poverty measure, as you've pointed out many times. But I do think it's still useful.
Thank you very much, Ron Haskins, for joining us again at Spotlight. We hope you'll come back.
I'd be glad to.
Thank you, Ron.